Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Legion Season 1, Episode 6. It's called Chapter 6. Full spoilers for the episode, as always. So we ended the last episode with Sid about to be shot. Well, the gun was fired.
Yes.
The eye, pretending to be the other dude, fired a gun, and at that moment when she jumped in front of David, we snapped into this reality, this
Yes.
dream world, if you want to call it that. That David is, well, I say David. Might not actually be David who created it, but
David seemingly created.
yeah, certainly at the end of the last episode, it felt that way, like it was
Yeah.
a defense mechanism.
Yes.
And we ended with the all the main characters, all including the eye, because he was in the room. All of them ended up inside what appears to be a new version of Clockworks, the psychiatric hospital. And it's funny because one of the running theories throughout the show, which we've kind of touched on here or there, but we've kind of left it until there's more evidence for it, where all the characters are actually inside David's head. They're all parties, like all the various personalities. This was the first episode where I could kind of see it a bit more. Because I was thinking, well, if this is him like defaulting back to Clockworks, like this is him resetting when things get too bad.
Yeah.
Is that how we started the show as well? Like, had stuff just reset because things had gotten bad, and each time, so like, all the characters eventually came into it again, and it's like layers of just resets and resets. I don't necessarily think it's the case, but I just for a while early on I was thinking, I can see it. I can see it a bit more now than I could before.
Yeah, especially with him like mixing up the different disorders with him and Sid.
Yeah, like there were details, and they even spoke about memories mixing as well. In
Yeah.
that scene. So
But that could also just be explained away by they're in his mind. He's grabbed them in and they're representations of themselves and
because I think the other one bit of evidence to suggest that they are going that route, and some people are so convinced they are, is it did occur to me sometime recently, but I was thinking about it again during this episode. Is all the other characters we know, all the other mutants, all of their powers are kind of subsections of David's power. All of them.
yeah.
Melanie has telepathy. Sid can kind of become someone else, and David maybe can't literally swap bodies with someone, but the idea that he can go in someone's head, that's kind of a thing. The idea of Potomi going through memories, David could probably do that with his telepathy and his mind powers. The idea that Carrie and Kerry, like one person's living inside the other person, that's very David.
Do you know the only one that feels weird though? The eye.
I don't know if it does.
Go on.
Well, because, I mean, you could argue that he's not actually changing into someone else. He's just warping the other people that are looking at him, their perception, which again is a very part of David's power. He could probably do that.
Yeah, okay.
That they all feel like they're parts of his powers, which is the other bit of evidence, I think.
I do remember this coming up after the very first episode where after the breakout where all you see is telekinesis.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking about it. I'm like, they all feel like things that David could probably do. To an
Yeah,
extent.
and I'm not saying I don't believe it. It's very plausible, but I'm not
it's-
100% convinced it's the way they're going either.
Oh yeah,
I think it could go either way still for me.
yeah. I'm not convinced it is either necessarily. But the whole idea of his character, the idea that he collects personalities and they're all in his head, the fact that that's a known part of his character, it could be going that way. And this was the first episode where I felt like, okay, this will actually kind of make sense if they go this route. Whereas before, it didn't feel that way.
Yeah, I think my concern with this is just they've got to do it very carefully so it doesn't feel cheap. So that all these characters that we've come to know are just him. It's got to feel like
Well,
there's
they're not
still
him, though.
people. Well, no, they're people he has collected, but there's got to be a good reason why it's this perception that we're seeing of everything.
Well, it's as simple. It's because they're still real. They're still real people. Reality is nothing but like why is the reality in his head where they're all inhabiting together any different from at something set in the real world where it's a bunch of characters? They're all really in there. This is the weird difference between this and other shows where you have characters in heads and you have people hallucinating.
They are actually in there.
Yeah, they're actually in there. They're actually the real people are there in essence, and that makes it really different and weird. But again, like I say, the first instinct I went to was, oh, this is a defense mechanism because of what was about to happen, or the Shadow King, aka Lenny, has done this. And of course, the evidence for that is that Lenny's in control of this hallucination, if you will, this new reality that they're all living in, where they're all patients. Spitting guy's back, as is the guy who was hiding in the vines in the background. There was a shot of him in the background, which I appreciate. Cracked me up again.
I will say it could still be both. It could have been a defense mechanism and then hijacked.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, absolutely. And of course, not only is she in control, not only is she now the authoritative figure, she's the psychiatrist interviewing them all. That's how we open. We open this montage of like all of them getting interviewed, except David, which I thought was interesting. We actually end on Sid, and Sid, for the most part, is actually the protagonist of this episode, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, actually, this whole intro, there's about 7 minutes or so, maybe, where it's just these interviews, and there's no music whatsoever.
Yeah, it goes through Melanie, Potomi, the Eye, Kerry Carey, who get done together, and because they're being treated as if they've just got a condition, they're just inseparable. They're not actually inside each other. They're just they're joined at the hip. Not quite literally, but almost.
Figuratively.
Yeah, almost. Well, when they're walking together, they're actually walking, they're brushing side by side. So
yeah.
I say almost literally in the sense that the only thing that's missing is the actual connection. They're always there, connected there. There's not an actual physical tie.
Yeah.
But so we open all that, and we go with Sid, and the episode's got a kind of an eerie feeling about it. It feels like there's always the chance of horror around. Obviously, the Eye eventually starts stalking Kerry later on in the episode, and that's pretty creepy. But even right from the get-go, because it ends with Sid. We go through all these interviews, and it ends with Sid, and she gets up and leaves, and we follow her. We follow her out of the office, and she's going down the hall. And that's when we get the title screen. Which, by the way, it's very Mr. Robot, but the way the title sort of comes up.
Yeah, it doesn't interrupt anything. It's just part of the scene.
But at the same time, it's big, it's huge, it's in your face, it's bold.
Yeah.
Yeah, Legion, we're proud of this goddamn show. Which, by the way, has been renewed for season 2. Happy News.
Yes, it has.
So Sid is also the one who's questioning what's going on. She's the one who's kind of realising something's not quite right. She's noticing a door that's like appearing and disappearing. She's noticing the wall like bleeding and having this sort of like a pimple.
That door, when you first see it, is the first time you hear music in the episode. And it's like, oh, maybe that's a door to reality. Because in TV and film, we often think of music as a way of accentuating reality, to tell you how to think and feel.
But of course, that's not what it turns out it is.
Exactly.
Because we see Lenny in control. We get this really wild sequence where the show gets really stylized. And it almost looks like the opening title sequence to a Bond movie. Is the best I'd describe it.
Yeah.
So Lenny starts off in her office, and she sort of, the music kicks in. What's the song called?
Feeling Good, which I loved at first because it kicks in before you get to her. It's after Sid throws the pie, and you're zoomed in on the pie on the floor, and the song starts playing.
Yeah, her face fades in over the pie.
Yeah, and at first I was like, oh, this is an ironic choice of song, Feeling Good, considering they're all trapped in a mental institution, so to speak.
But it's not for them, it's for her.
But then it switches it. It's for her, and she's feeling good that she's in control. It's this is cool.
She's in control, and she everything turns red, and then she turns into like a red silhouette almost, if you will. And it goes very stylized, and she's walking like on a black background, and essentially what we see is her going around David's mind because she's like having a field day. She's in control. David is kind of unaware of his own abilities, that things are fake, and she's going to various locations in his mind that we've seen before. The memory in the apartment, where he was getting studied on, at the place where they hang out. I can't remember the name of it. But all the different locations that we've seen throughout the show, and she's just dancing and feeling good.
It's gorgeous as well to look at.
Oh yeah, it's very energetic, but you get in that scene that she is completely in control. This is the most in control she's probably been ever, maybe.
Yeah.
And she's ecstatic about it. But of course Sid is kind of slowly learning throughout, and she's trying to convince David, but David's very confused. And she ends up fighting back. Lenny kind of fights back, and she gives her the headphones, and she sort of like puts her in like a trance, and she goes into David's childhood room, and she's locked her away because she's messing with David. Then she has that big scene with David towards the end where she confronts him, admits what she kind of is, like, I've been with you since the womb, and starts talking about his real father. And not only does she mention his real father, she says, yeah, he acts all holier than thou, but then he gives you up. It's like, that does sound like Xavier.
It does. And it's interesting. It was like, oh, he gave you up to keep you safe, like to keep her away from
Yeah, keep me
David.
away was the
Yeah.
exact phrase. Uh, which makes sense. The fact that he knows there's some sort of psychic problem.
Yeah, he'd be able to sense. I like that he could sense it in the womb, though.
Yeah, that early.
Yeah, that's how powerful Xavier is.
Yeah, yeah. So no, big stuff, and even at the end, she locks him away. She locks him away in what looks like a box. But of course, the big thing that's happening throughout the episode that was really exciting. Oliver, Melanie's husband, who we know is also trapped in the astral plane. He's in there. He's in his big ice chunk, and obviously Carrie sort of what feels like a weird LSD trip. He sort of sees the ice floating towards him and whatever. But it becomes clear that Oliver's trying to help. Like he's aware of what's going on and he's trying to break through to the characters to help. And he gets to Carrie first, and he transports him. And what I thought was a nice touch to let you know that Carrie was sort of snapping out of the illusion was not only does he get transported to another location when he sees the the deep sea diver outfit, it's that when he goes there, all of his bruises come back that he had in the real
Yeah.
world in the last episode, and it was just a subtle little thing that let you know he's back. Kind of, he's not in reality, but he's aware of his
And
reality.
it's the way he just seems more aware. Like when he's trying to communicate, he thinks it through. He tries different languages. He's just like, what can I do?
Yeah, he tries a lot of different languages actually.
He does. Gets through a good handful.
Yeah, I understood a few of them.
Yeah, maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah, Guten Tag.
Yeah.
Guten Tag, I know, German for hello. Japanese, of course, which I'm forgetting now, but I know when he said
Konnichiwa.
it. Konnichiwa, thank you. But, no, yeah, so he does that. And then he goes to Melanie. And for Melanie, it's more of a sort of more of a romantic thing because it is her husband and she's like delighted to see him, and he won't speak to her, but he sort of leads her down the path and leads her through the wall. Actually, like this is him,
Yeah,
like
it's really cool.
really Actually, see the first shot of her. Actually, it's a close up of her hand pushing in the wall. I like that effect because I think it was a physical effect. They actually built like a little bit of the wall that actually sort of sunk in, and it looked
Yeah.
really cool.
It's like some sort of putty.
Yeah. But they blended it with the rest of. Obviously, they built like a fake wall and put this in the spit in, but it looked really cool. And he leads her down the thing to the cryo chamber, as Lenny called it, and he sort of brings her back into not really into the real world, but shows her what's happening in the real world. The idea is that all this is taking place as the bullets are still coming towards Sid and David.
Yeah, and we see them. They're still moving very slowly, but they're not completely still.
Oh, very slow. Yeah, we're moving at I don't know what speed this would be like, but it's like
Stupid slow, but I think it made a point of showing me they're not entirely still. There's still a timer on this.
oh
so
yeah,
to speak.
yeah. There's a ticking time bomb to the whole thing, and Melanie tries to she looks at it and she's trying to fix it. She tries to move Sid and Dave. She tries to even touch the bullet, see if she can stop it, and it like, obviously burns her hand because it's like a bullet, and she's trying her best. And then you get the big creepy eyes in the wall, the Shadow King.
It's the way they just open out of the wall
Yeah.
and then just look around.
Like Lenny's aware that
Fantastic.
something's happening, like someone's trying to help them, and that it's after this where she goes and she gets David and sort of admits, okay, I'll let you have your friends. I thought that would make this whole thing easier, and we could share the body, but you know what? It's just too damn hard. I'm locking you away and I'm taking over, and that's kind of how things escalate. And of course, at the very end of the episode, it's when we see the deep sea diver suit again come for Sid, but it opens and it's actually Carrie. Somehow, I'm sure we'll see this next week how this came to be, but he's now in the deep sea diver suit and trying to like recruit back the rest of the team.
Yeah,
To
it's
find a
really
way
cool.
out. It is really cool. Obviously, it's a very weird episode. It's back to it's a lot more. This is probably the most like episode 1, not just because they're in the hospital, but because it's playing with things aren't quite what they seem. Like David's sister's one of the nurses, and she basically sexually assaults Sid at one point. She was like, "I need to frisk you," and she proper gropes her. And then later on, she tries to make David cry, by saying that he's a freak and no one wants him,
And takes his pie away.
and takes his pie away. And then, and I think for me that kind of was like. I think Lenny has done this. She's made her this person to represent the person who was like she always believed, or maybe she didn't believe, but she was the representation of, oh, people just think you're sick, you're a freak, you're ill, you're
And it
creepy.
twisted it into this hatred.
You twisted it into this hatred. So when she's saying, "Oh yeah, you're a freak, no one loved you," and she's become this authority figure that's there to police them as these freaks, if you will. So it's manipulated her into that, and that's pretty cool. So that's neat.
Yeah, it was great.
The whole thing was
Really
neat.
solid episode. I actually really like that this is episode 6, because obviously it's not completely resolved by the end. They're not out, and it's strange. Obviously, there's only 8 episodes, and it feels like, no, this is what this story is now. It's going to be about rescuing David. It's not about anything external. It's about saving him in his own head.
Yeah, well, the threat the entire time has been in his own head, so it kind of makes sense that season 1 is about defeating.
It has been that, but it's always felt like there was still going to be an external threat. Like we had the D3, what was it?
Well, I've got the eye. The eye's still in there.
Yeah,
and he's
yeah.
still a dangerous player. He's chasing around Carrie right now, and Carrie's terrified. I actually think the anxiety she feels because Carrie's not there is really well handled. Like, you kind of feel it.
Yeah,
then-
it's shot with it's really close up, and it just feels tight.
And you have the eye, of course, making just things creepy, and it has like Michael Myers-esque stalking of her in the hallways, and even that first time when he's just standing there, she's just waiting outside the bathroom waiting for Carrie to come out, and he's
He
just
just
standing
stands there staring.
And of course the music starts going all sorts of nuts
Yeah.
for that stuff. But to me it makes sense. It actually bookmarks it perfectly. We started with a very psychedelic kind of episode.
Yeah.
And we set up the main kind of stuff is trying to. I mean, every episode's been about trying to figure out what's going on in his head. Like, why are the memories missing? Who is he? Why are things like this? How can we teach him to keep control of his powers? And I think ultimately, maybe what season 1 will end with is the defeat, if not indefinitely, at least the partial defeat of the Shadow King, so that David can actually get a hold of what he is.
It certainly feels like the last episode is going to be a showdown with the Shadow King.
Yeah, and it feels like season 2 now might. I mean, I'm sure there'll still be psychedelic elements, but it might be okay. Now we really deal with the external threats next season, and we deal with the fact that David can now be a soldier in whatever this fight is. And I still think the main stuff will play a role in it. I think he will fight battlefield. He'll fight the battle in his mind with some people. That'll be how he does things, and we'll still get the main stuff. But I feel like that this season's about saving himself because he's messed up, and he's always been messed up. And
I really like that from a storytelling perspective. We have to focus on our hero before we can worry about the threats, so to speak.
Yeah. And there's still threats there, of course. There's multiple threats, but no. And I think, and it's kind of going back to what I said about if everyone does turn out to be a personality inside him, if he is all one person or inside one person, it's the idea that, even forgetting that, but it's a similar idea in the sense that even though this is all inside his head, the battle is real. This doesn't make it any less real or any less, the stakes any less. They're clearly setting up that they're on this time bomb and the bullets are coming for them, and if he doesn't win this fight by the time that happens, him and Sid are dead. Now you could argue that can they even move quick enough once they get out to, but then of course he has telekinesis.
I was just gonna say powers.
If he gets control of his powers, by the time he snaps out of it, he can stop those bullets.
Yeah, instantaneously with no problem.
So I think the stakes are real. I think the drama's real. It kind of goes back to what I always say about how, okay, you can tell me the villain's about to destroy the world and he's got like 100 nukes, and it's like, okay, that's fine and that's big and it's operatic and you can have big action sequences, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the stakes feel high in the same way that the stakes can feel high if you've just got 2 people in a room talking to each other. You watch a Tarantino scene of just 2 characters hiding something from each other. The stakes are so high. It doesn't matter what the threat is, as long as it means something to the characters. It can actually almost be easier to make the stakes feel bigger when it is smaller, because it's personal and you understand everyone who's involved and what all their motivations are, how it affects all of them individually, as opposed to, the world's going to end. Well, that's fine, but I don't know all 7 billion people on Earth, so I don't really care about them as a mass, beyond the basic moral of, sure, people shouldn't die.
Yeah.
So, but stakes are real, good creepiness, good stylistic stuff.
And Aubrey Plaza really brought it this episode. Like, she's been good, but she's not really had a chance to stretch her legs.
Oh yeah, this is definitely the most time she's had to.
But then she proved why she was cast, basically.
Yeah, I think this is one of those cases where you're going to have that much screen time for the first chunk of the season, but it's because you're going to have so much meaty stuff to do later on, we have to set you up. Which, by the way, see when she was leaning over him, and it cut to the actual demon version.
Mm.
I was like, oh man, this is proper creepy stuff.
So I found really interesting actually because obviously it was almost like sexual assault vibes in that scene.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But I was reading an interview during the week about how when the script was written, she wasn't even a woman. It was for a middle-aged man
Yeah, I heard
called
this.
Benny.
They changed the character because they wanted to cast her. Yeah.
Yeah, but they didn't change anything in the script. They just changed the name, and every single piece of dialogue and action stayed the same.
Well, that makes sense though. I mean,
Yeah.
his mind is being violated. This is in a form rape.
Yeah,
It is.
exactly.
He's being completely violated. It's kind of like when we talked when Jessica Jones, of course, dealt with a lot of that, and he was invading your mind, and it was he quite literally used it for sex as well. But
Yeah.
it's the same thing where someone get into your mind. It's still violation. It's still that kind of thing.
Yeah, this was even the line says, "Oh, I don't care about your mind. I just need your body."
Yeah.
It's like a physical violation as well there.
Sure, but at that point, does it matter really? Like,
Yeah.
like mental abuse and physical abuse
Yeah,
are both
yeah.
awful. So it's just like, but part of me almost, I mean, as great as she is, part of me does want the middle-aged fat guy to be doing that scene and leaning into him, and because that bit where she puts her foot in his crotch, and it's
Yeah.
like this intimidating. Again, leading into that violation, and it doesn't matter that you're at least visually you're the male and I am the female.
Yeah.
Like,
I think the only bit that would ruin for me is the moment where you see it as the Shadow King. The such glaring difference
I wouldn't be as creepy,
of the
yeah.
reality versus the perception that's being
yeah,
put on.
if it was a middle-aged fat guy, it would just go from middle-aged fat guy to him with makeup on.
Exactly. It's
essentially.
not quite as effective, I don't think.
No, that's fair. That's fair. But part of me still like would it almost make the point even more poignant that this is still
Yeah.
essentially sexual assault to an extent.
Yeah.
It's more sexual's maybe not the right word, but it's that kind of assault, that kind of
Yeah.
violation. Regardless if the Shadow King is looking like a woman, a man, whatever, regardless of what gender or whatever David is, like the idea that it doesn't matter. Like, but hey, no, this is a very good point. Very good point. That was a great episode.
Yeah, it was.
Still great. Only 2 episodes left, which is kind of upsetting.
It's really sad, isn't it?
It is really sad. I applaud it for really taking its time and the sort of decompressed nature of the story. However, it's frustrating when there's only 8 of them, and I'm like, I've only got 2 left, and this is where we are.
Nothing's happened. Well, I mean, not nothing, but you know.
It feels like what that makes me think though is whatever the game plan is for however many seasons that they want to they're planning for tentatively. Like I say, it's 5 seasons. I wonder if like the 5 seasons, like, oh, this is a story that maybe in a regular show would play out over 1 season, but because we're dealing with each part and we're treating the Saving David with this much respect of this 8-episode arc.
Yeah, it makes everything feel so focused. Like we're going to focus on this piece of this story rather than the story as a whole.
But it makes me wonder that if when the show's finished, say it does last 5 seasons, and you look at the 5 seasons and just look at what's the actual core plot, what's the actual conflict that the characters are as a whole facing, and it's wrapped up in the end. Like, will that be actually relatively simple by comparison because it is dealing with each thing at so in depth? But that's a bad thing. It's actually a good thing.
Yeah, it's a nice change of pace. I don't see it that much.
And not necessarily that not doing that's a bad thing either. It's just a stylistic choice, and here they're playing to their strengths. So, that is this week's episode of Legion. Let us know what you thought of it in the comments below. Like and subscribe and all that stuff. It helps us out a lot. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you next time.